My phone keeps ringing while I stand in the airport parking garage in Dallas, staring at the empty space where my car should be. I press the key fob again. Nothing. Then my phone buzzes with a voicemail. "Hi, this is Daniel. I just bought your Honda Civic yesterday, but the title you gave me doesn't match your stepmother's name. The DMV told me to call you." My stomach drops. I open my messages. There it is. From my stepmother. Sent 2 days ago. "You weren't using it anyway. Your sister needed the money." And right below it, "Don't make this dramatic." I'm still staring at the screen when another call comes in. This time, the caller ID says Fort Worth Police Department. I answer, and everything gets worse. My name is Madison Reyes, 26, and I'm telling this because the day my stepmother sold my car was the day she finally learned she never owned me. Before all of this, my life was quiet. I lived in Austin, Texas, in a small one-bedroom apartment with thin walls and a view of a parking lot. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I worked as a junior marketing coordinator for a tech company downtown. It paid enough to cover rent, groceries, and the monthly payments on the one thing I was proud of: my car. A gray Honda Civic Sport, 2021 model. It wasn't expensive compared to what my coworkers drove, but I had bought it myself. No cosigner, no help. Every payment came from my paycheck. That mattered to me more than anyone understood, because growing up, nothing had ever really been mine. My mom passed away when I was 14. 6 months later, my dad married Lydia. She was polite in public, warm even, but at home she made it clear that I was temporary. Her daughter, Chloe, was 2 years younger than me, loud, emotional, always needing something. New phone, new clothes, help with rent when she moved out at 19. My dad always said yes. When I turned 18 and left for college, Lydia hugged me at the door and whispered, "You'll be fine. You've always been independent." It didn't feel like praise. It felt like dismissal. After college, I built my life without them. I didn't ask for money. I didn't visit often. Not because I hated them, because it was easier not to expect anything. Still, when my dad had his heart surgery last year, I came back to Fort Worth for 2 weeks. I slept on their couch. I drove Lydia to the grocery store. I picked up Chloe when her car broke down. That was when Lydia started asking questions about my Civic. "How much was it?" she asked one night, standing in the kitchen. "About $23,000, I said. She whistled softly. "That's a lot for someone your age." I shrugged. "I worked." She smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Must be nice. I ignored it. When I left, my dad hugged me longer than usual. He said, "I'm proud of you." He quieted. Lydia stood behind him, watching. She didn't say anything. 2 weeks ago, my company sent me on my first real business trip. Dallas, 4 days, marketing conference. It felt like progress. I drove to Fort Worth the night before and asked Lydia if I could leave my car in their driveway instead of airport parking. I said, "It'll be safer." She smiled immediately. "Of course, honey." I remember that word, honey. She never used it before. I handed her the spare key. That was my mistake. The conference went well. I shook hands, I presented slides, my boss nodded approvingly. For the first time, I felt like my life was moving forward. Lydia texted once during the trip. "Lydia, how's Dallas?" Me, "Good, busy." Lydia, "Drive safe when you come back." Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. Until Saturday morning. The text came while I was eating breakfast at the hotel. "You weren't using it anyway. Your sister needed the money." I stared at the message. At first, I thought she meant something small. Maybe she borrowed it. Maybe she pawned something inside. I typed back, "What do you mean?" No response. I called her, straight to voicemail. I called Chloe. No answer. A strange feeling settled in my chest, but I told myself it was nothing. It had to be nothing. Sunday night, my flight landed in Dallas at 9:40 p.m. I took an Uber to Fort Worth, expecting to see my Civic exactly where I left it. Instead, their driveway was empty. I knocked on the door. No answer. Lights off. I checked the side yard. Nothing. My heart started racing. That was when my phone buzzed with the voicemail from Daniel, the buyer, the man who thought he owned my car. I listened to it twice, hoping I misunderstood. I hadn't. Someone had sold my car, and only one person had the keys. My hands shook as I opened Lydia's last message again. "Don't make this dramatic." I felt something shift inside me. Not panic, not sadness, something colder. Then my phone rang. Fort Worth Police Department. I answered slowly. Hello? A calm male voice spoke. Ms. Reyes, this is Officer Bennett. We received a report involving a vehicle registered under your name. My throat tightened. Yes? There was a pause. Your stepmother claims you gave her permission to sell it. The words hit me like ice. I looked at the empty driveway, at the house where I had once lived, at the door that stayed closed, and for the first time I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional.
I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a cheap motel off Interstate 35, staring at the police report Officer Bennett had emailed me. The words blurred together on the screen. Vehicle sold by Lydia Reyes. Claim authorized by owner. Authorized. The lie was so calm, so confident. I kept replaying every moment in my head. Her smile when I handed her the spare key, her text telling me not to be dramatic, the way she had already decided my car wasn't mine anymore. At 7:12 a.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Hi, this is Daniel, the nervous voice said. I'm the one who bought your car. I sat up straighter. Where are you? There was a pause. At my apartment. The police told me not to register it yet. Did you pay cash? Yes, $8,000. $8,000. My stomach twisted. The car was worth at least double that. Did she give you the title? Yeah, but it wasn't signed by you. She said you were out of town. I closed my eyes. She never had the right to sell it. Silence filled the line. Then he said quietly, I figured something was wrong. He wasn't the enemy. He was another person Lydia had used. Don't worry, I said. I'm fixing it. After we hung up, I called Officer Bennett. What happens now? I asked. His tone was steady, professional. If the title is still in your name, she couldn't legally transfer ownership. The vehicle is still yours. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last. However, he continued, we'll need proof that you didn't give permission. Proof. I opened my messages again. There it was. You weren't using it anyway. Not we talked about it, not you agreed. She had confessed without realizing it. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every missed call, every detail. Then I drove straight to the DMV. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead while a woman behind the counter examined my ID. Yes, she said finally, you're the sole registered owner. She slid the document toward me. Without your signature, no one can legally sell this vehicle. I stared at the paper. This was my leverage, my protection, my revenge. Not yelling, not begging, truth. Around noon, Lydia finally called. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice came smooth and annoyed. Madison, the police called me. You're making this into a huge issue. My grip tightened on the phone. You sold my car. You weren't using it, she repeated calmly. Chloe needed help. You had no right. She sighed dramatically. You've always been selfish. The word landed harder than anything else. Selfish. After everything I'd done alone, after never asking for anything, I spoke quietly. Where's the money? That's none of your concern. I smiled. She still didn't understand. Yes, I said softly, it is. She hesitated. For the first time, she sounded unsure. You're overreacting, she snapped. It's just a car. Just a car. She had no idea it was never about the car. It was about control, about proving she could take something from me and I'd accept it like always. But I wasn't 14 anymore. I'll handle it, I said calmly. Then I hung up. That afternoon, Officer Bennett called again. We've spoken to the buyer, he said. He's willing to cooperate. Good. Next step is retrieving the vehicle. My heart pounded. Can I be there? Yes, but Ms. Reyes, situations like this can escalate. I stared out the motel window at the Texas sky. Hot, endless, heavy. She started it, I said quietly, and for the first time since her message, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. I met Officer Bennett and Daniel in the parking lot of Daniel's apartment complex in Arlington. My Civic was parked between a pickup truck and a faded blue sedan. For a moment, I just stood there. It looked exactly the same. Gray paint, small scratch on the rear bumper, the air freshener I'd hung from the mirror still visible through the windshield. It felt like seeing an old friend who didn't know they'd been taken from me. Daniel stood beside it, shifting nervously. He was younger than I expected, maybe 22. Baseball cap, nervous eyes. "I'm really sorry," he said. She seemed convincing. I nodded. "This isn't your fault." Officer Bennett stepped forward, clipboard in hand. "Miss Reyes," he said, "can you confirm this is your vehicle?" "Yes." He handed me a form. "Sign here to acknowledge recovery." My hand trembled slightly as I wrote my name. Madison Reyes. Proof. Ownership. Control. Daniel reached into his pocket and held out the keys. "I didn't know," he said again. I took them. The familiar weight settled into my palm. Something inside my chest loosened, but it wasn't over. Not even close. As Officer Bennett spoke with Daniel, my phone buzzed. Lydia. I stared at the screen. She must have known. I answered. Her voice came sharp. "Where are you?" "With my car." Silence. Then anger. "You went behind my back." I almost laughed. "My back?" She ignored that. "You embarrassed Chloe. She already spent some of that money." "Of course she had. That was the plan all along." "Then she'll have to return it," I said calmly. "You can't do this to family." Family. The word felt hollow. "You sold my property. You lied to police." Her breathing grew heavier. "You're being cruel." Cruel. I thought about the nights I worked late to afford that car, the years of doing everything alone, the way she had taken it without even asking. "No," I said quietly, "I'm being fair." She hung up. I slid into the driver's seat. The familiar smell hit me instantly. Coffee, fabric, and the faint citrus scent of the air freshener. It was still mine. I started the engine. The dashboard lit up. Normal, safe, untouched. But something inside me had changed. This wasn't just about getting it back. This was about making sure she never tried again. That evening, I drove straight to Fort Worth. Not to the house, to the bank. I parked outside and opened my phone. Chloe's social media was public, like always. There it was, a photo posted yesterday. Her smiling in front of a salon mirror. Caption, "Finally fixed everything." I zoomed in. Behind her, sitting on the counter, cash. Stacks of it. My jaw tightened. Evidence. She hadn't even tried to hide it. I took screenshots, every photo, every timestamp. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to one name I hadn't called in months. My dad. He answered on the second ring. "Madison?" His voice sounded tired. "Did you know?" I asked quietly. Silence filled the line. Too long. Lydia said you agreed." My chest tightened. She lied. Another pause, then softer. "I'm sorry." It wasn't enough, but it was something. "I'm coming tomorrow," I said. He hesitated. "Madison, she's very upset." I stared through the windshield at the darkening sky. For years, Lydia had controlled every room she stood in, every conversation, every outcome. But now I had proof. The title, the messages, the buyer, the police report. And tomorrow she wouldn't be able to hide behind excuses. "Good," I said calmly, because for the first time in my life, I was ready to face her. The next morning, I parked my Civic in front of the house where I grew up. The same white siding, the same cracked driveway, the same front porch where I used to sit after school, waiting for a mother who was never coming back. For a moment, I stayed inside the car, hands resting on the steering wheel. This time, I wasn't coming back as the quiet girl who tolerated everything. I stepped out. The front door opened before I could knock. My dad stood there. He looked older than I remembered, smaller. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi." His eyes flicked to the driveway behind me, to the Civic. "You got it back?" "Yes." He stepped aside, letting me enter. The house smelled the same. Coffee, lemon cleaner, familiar and uncomfortable at once. Lydia stood in the kitchen, arms crossed. Chloe sat at the table, staring down at her phone. Neither of them smiled. Lydia spoke first. "You've caused enough trouble." Her tone was calm, but her jaw was tight. I walked into the room slowly. "You sold my car." She shrugged. "You weren't using it." Chloe muttered, "I needed it more than you." I looked at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I reached into my bag and placed a printed document on the table. The vehicle registration. My name clear at the top. "I'm the legal owner," I said. Lydia didn't even glance at it. "This is family," she said. "We share things." I let that sit for a second. Then I placed my phone beside the paper and tapped the screen. Her message glowed back at her. "You weren't using it anyway. Your sister needed the money." Her expression shifted, just slightly. "That doesn't mean—" I cut her off. "The police have it." Silence fell. Chloe's head snapped up. Dad looked between us, confused and worried. Lydia straightened. "You called the police on your own family?" Her voice carried disbelief, like I had broken some invisible rule. "You involved them when you sold something that wasn't yours," I replied calmly. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For once, she didn't have control. I reached into my bag again and pulled out another paper, a repayment agreement form. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to finish this." I slid it toward Chloe. "You received $8,000. Her face went pale. "I don't have it anymore." I nodded. "Then you'll repay it over time." Lydia stepped forward. "This is ridiculous." I met her eyes. "If it isn't repaid, the report moves forward." Dad spoke quietly. "Lydia, did you really sell her car?" She didn't answer. That was answer enough. He looked at me, pain in his eyes. "I didn't know." But it didn't change what happened. Chloe's voice cracked. "How much time?" "Monthly payments," I said, "until it's returned." Lydia stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't, because the girl she used to control wouldn't have done this. She would have stayed quiet. She would have accepted it. I picked up my keys. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's accountability." I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, no one followed. No one argued. Outside, the Texas sun felt brighter than usual, warmer. I got into my car and closed the door. For a moment, I just breathed. The engine started smoothly. Everything was still mine. My car, my life, my boundaries. My phone buzzed once more. A message from Lydia. "You've changed." I stared at it for a second. Then I typed back. "No, I finally stopped letting you decide who I was." I set the phone down and drove away. This time, not looking back.